I have a thing for Spanish pistols, and their low price point and lack of collectors makes it really affordable to collect. Spanish pistols tend to be fairly interesting in their designs, often sharing design details from numerous handguns all wrapped up in one. One of the latest in my collection is the Star 30M, which I think might be the best surplus buy of 2025. The Star 30M descends from the Star 28, which was Star's first original design. Like most Spanish arms companies, they would just replicate other guns from other companies with some slight modifications. With Star, it was usually 1911s. So when the Air Force started looking for a handgun to replace the older M15 revolvers from Smith & Wesson, Star actually entered the Model 28. It never really got a fair shake at the competition since around the same time the Joint Service Small Arms Program came to be, and they ran their own contest, which would adopt one handgun for every branch. As we all know, the Beretta 92 eventually won. Now, to be fair, if I was going to pick between the Beretta 92 and the Star 30M as a service pistol, I'd probably pick the Beretta. That's not to say the 28 or the 30M are bad guns, but the Beretta was better. So the original 28 had a few flaws, and Star improved the gun, later naming it the Star 30M. If you pay attention to any of the firearms deal aggregators, you've seen these Star 30M pistols hit the market. Century Arms is the importer, and all of the big surplus sellers are slinging them. I purchased this gun for less than $300 shipped, and it comes with 2 magazines, a nice punch rod, and a green box. A word on extra magazines: you can get them, and they seem to cost about $60 a pop, so you might as well just buy extra guns at that point. Most of these imports seem to be Spanish surplus guns. The Guardia Civil carried these guns for years, and that looks like where these are coming from. The Guardia Civil is a Spanish national police agency with a military background, so if you read anything about European police, especially national police, the lines between military police and civilian police are not as distinct. So the Guardia Civil seems to both patrol highways and participate in foreign deployments. Now, if you're lucky, your sample will have a GC marking in front of the serial number. Most of these guns have had that marking ground off, and mine is included, sadly. It's that little silver circle you see. That's where the mark used to be before they ground it off. You know, the Guardia Civil weren't the only people carrying this. Elements of the Spanish military carried it. Elements of Peruvian police also carried the gun. It was fairly successful for Star, and they produced it from 1984 to 1994. The Star 30M perfectly encapsulates the 1980s and 1990s era of handgun design. It's an all-metal, hammer-fired, double-action, single-action handgun that feeds from a staggered column magazine and fires 9mm. It falls into that oh-so-awesome group of firearms we call Wonder 9s. Star 30M uses a Browning-style short recoil action with a tilting barrel, and the slide and frame kind of make it stand out. With most guns, the slide rides on the frame. With the 30M, the slide rides inside the frame. This results in a lower bore axis as well as a smaller, lighter slide. Both can contribute to less muzzle rise and recoil. The lighter slide does most of the recoil reducing work, but hey, people are always going to mention bore axis. The slide also houses our ambidextrous safety, which also stands out. I typically don't like slide-mounted safeties, but because the slide is so small and so close to the frame, this one is actually fairly easy to reach. Now, this is just a safety. It does not decock the gun. It retracts the firing pin, making it impossible for the hammer to reach. This allows you to safely carry the gun locked and cocked if you so choose. Decocking is as simple as leaving the safety on and manually lowering the hammer or just pulling the trigger. I still feel unsafe decocking that way if I'm not pointing this gun downrange. It's likely 100% safe, but I trust my gut in matters of gun safety. We can activate the trigger with the safety in place and can dry fire the gun with the safety on. I like this because Spanish firing pins are a lot like eggs. They're, fragile. I'm a real sucker for all-metal Wonder 9s. I love hammer-fired DA SA handguns from the 80s and 90s, but they aren't perfect. Their ergonomics tend to be fine, but compared to most guns, they are dated. The Star 30M exemplifies those dated ergonomics, but there's a few highlights that stand out. Now, the worst part is the grip width. Not the right to left width. Although it's fairly chunky, it's not bad. The width from front to rear feels like a long walk on a hot day, which means I'm sweaty. As a founding member of the Big Hand Club, it still challenges my grip. I can lock it down, but it's no Walther. We get serrations on the front and rear of the grip, which are nice, and a set of cheap plastic grips with checkering, it's fine. We get a big beaver tail at the rear of the gun that allows for a high grip and protects your hand from the hammer, but the trigger guard undercut gives you the opposite feeling. If you go for a nice high grip, your fingers are all going to go high. and it starts to feel like the trigger guard is stretching your hand. Now, since the slide's tight to the frame, it's no stretch to reach the safety, so that's not too bad. The safety of the Star 30M is exceptionally stiff and tight, which makes it difficult to maneuver with one hand. Most of the time when I'm going to move the safety, I'm just going to use my offhand to do so. There's not a lot of controls with this gun. We got the ambidextrous safety, which I've already mentioned is kind of tight, kind of heavy, but easy to reach. What I do like about it is that it provides some wings to work the slide. Whenever the slide rides inside the gun, you have very little slide protruding from the gun, which means you have less slide to grip. So these little wings give you a little bit extra. They make it really easy to rack the slide. You can manipulate the slide with the safety on. This makes clearing the gun exceptionally safe. The slide release is massive. It's huge, it's easy to press, and drops the slide with some real authority. The magazine release is fine. It's small. It's kind of, because the gun's grip is so wide, it's not easy to reach necessarily, but there's nothing really wrong with it overall. Spanish handguns are not known for their exceptional accuracy. I have examples from World War I, World War II, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and none have ever impressed me. The Star 30M isn't going to shoot like a sawn-off shotgun with no choke, but it's not impressive in the accuracy department. At 25 yards and in, it's more than capable of decent accuracy. At 50 yards, it starts to fall apart, or just beyond 25 yards in general. Now you might ask, is it the Indian or the arrow? And that's a fair question to ask, but I can land more shots at 50 yards with a double action only Smith & Wesson 432 Ultimate Carry snubnose than with the Star 30M. The Star 30M suffers from small all-black sights. The rear is adjustable for windage, which is a nice touch, but not something you want on a duty pistol. At least I don't want it on a duty pistol. Now, with that said, it's really just kind of a mechanical accuracy problem because the single action trigger is downright fantastic. It's crisp, it's light, resets quickly with a nice audible click. It's better than guns like the CZ75 and the Smith & Wesson 3rd Gen series, and even better than the Beretta 92. The double action rolls nicely. It's a little odd because it increases in weight a lot and then it breaks all of a sudden. Odd, but not bad. Ultimately, I was able to make some fairly impressive groups at 10 yards with the single action. I shot the double action at 5 yards, not for any particular reason. I was just already at 5 yards shooting drills, and I shot a double action only group, which I'll show here. A lot of all-metal Wonder 9s seem to have more recoil than modern polymer frame handguns. A lot of this can be due to modern ergonomics. Also, polymer frames do flex, giving you a little bit of recoil reduction. Also, the slides on these older guns tend to be on the heavy side. Beretta and CZ avoided these fates with a lighter slide design, and the Star 30M does the same. It has hardly any recoil. It's truly a gentle push and not much else. The Star 30M barely moves between shots and might be one of the most comfiest shooting 9mm handguns I've ever fired. The light slide weight mixed with a gun that weighs 2 pounds and 7 ounces results in a truly wonderful experience. I love shooting this gun. You ever shoot a lot and your hand gets tired? I'm sure most of us have gone there with a class or competition or something like that. That's not the case with the 30M. It's a lot of fun to shoot quickly with. I fired a few low-ready bill drills because I don't have a holster for this gun and I don't know where to find one just yet. And I landed my first bill drill, cold, in 2.33 seconds. It's not bad, and the time only went down from there. Getting double taps done in less than a second on an 8-inch target at 7 yards was also like a Bahama breeze, nice and cool. That's cheesy, but the point is this gun's really easy to shoot. It's really fun to shoot. There's not a whole lot of recoil. If the grip was a little bit smaller, this could be one of those guns you give to people who are graduating from, rimfire handguns into centerfire handguns, and you can trust that they won't beat themselves up with it. Sadly, the big grip kind of makes that a little bit tough to do. Let's talk about reliability. This can be short and sweet. I fired 400 rounds of that new uber cheap Ammunition Depot remanufactured 9mm. It's like less than 18 cents a round or 18 cents a round with free shipping, so I'm shooting a lot of that lately. All 3 of the light strikes reignited on the second trigger pull, and that's why you gotta love a DASA design. You get that option to try again with just a press of a trigger. Other than those 3 light strikes, the gun ran without an issue. No jams, no failures to eject, just those light strikes. Not bad for an old gun. The surplus market isn't dry. It's just expensive. We've seen a sharp rise in the price of surplus guns, and they aren't getting any cheaper. Whenever something affordable comes along on the surplus market, it's worth paying attention to. With the Star 30M, you're getting a well-made, easy-to-shoot, and accurate enough firearm that can be carried for self-defense or even used for home defense. It's not modern, but it's interesting, and it's a lot of fun to shoot. If you collect surplus or want to start, grab a Star 30M. They won't be priced this low for long. Don't necessarily think of it as an investment. Think of it as a fun, cheap gun that's a little different from everything else that's on the market. So, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up. If you don't like the video, I guess you can hit the thumbs down. Does that exist anymore? Anyway, leave a comment, ask a question. I really appreciate everyone who watches. You guys are great. Fantastic viewership I have. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. I'm not good at ending these things, am I?